Welcome back, everybody, here to what could be the very last game of the Unified Grand Prix. We're here in the Grand Finals. It is quite a one-sided showing so far. No Org going up against Solafide. No Org coming from the lower bracket after defeating Zeus Gaming yesterday 3-0. No Org is now 2-0 up against Solafide, who had earned their trip here in their side selection in game number 1 and everything like that by never dropping down to the lower bracket. Now staring down the barrel of having to reverse sweep or it's all over. And they have elected to remain on the red side here in this third game.
Yeah, obviously, it's a little bit strange. So what I imagine is that we're going to get dropped bans on some of their previous ones, and then Seraphine's probably going to be on the chopping block. The other problem, though, is that now Noorg has shown a willingness to play Karma, and she's just as problematic as Seraphine. Maybe not quite as much as so, but still definitely obnoxious. And now Noorg, I mean, the manner in which they just won their last two games, is Solafide just tilted into oblivion? I think that is a very legitimate question here. And what might that end up meaning? Because yesterday we saw that when a team was tilted into oblivion, they just rolled over in the game 3.
And just the way that the fights are going on, the way that the big thing that I'm remembering is that massive team fight that dragged on for 2 minutes around the midpoint of the previous game. It eventually got to the point where both sides had lost one man and they're just trying to disengage. It's No Org that's backing away all the way back underneath their tier 1 turret, and Solafide are the ones who would refuse to take a stalemate as an answer. They would not handshake the walk away. They had to go forward. They wanted to have that fight to truly have a winner, and that winner was not them. They are then immediately aced. They lose everything. A Baron goes over to their opponents at 20 minutes and 30 seconds, and that just feels like the end of the game. And those sorts of unforced errors must be corrected now.
Yeah, they absolutely need to stop happening. And right now, I mean, okay, we have an Udyr and a Twisted Fate by Solafide. We're really looking for that Seraphine ban. Or are they just going to be like, well, I think Seraphine... Oh, no, all right. Okay. So it does seem like Seraphine will finally meet the true death here in the ban phase. And now, an insta-snap, B1 Senna.
Okay, they are not letting Solafide have it this time around. They're saying, you banned our heal-spamming champion. We are going to take another heal-spamming champion that works a little bit differently here this time around. And also, worth pointing out here, that the focused bans on fasting Senna partners from the previous games are not being focused anymore. That's what was removed in the first phase in favor of the Udyr, in favor of the Seraphine. So now as No Org have crafted this draft for themselves, they've got the opportunity to get Senna an ideal partner down there.
Yeah. And Senna, I mean, she is being vacuum answered right now by the Varus. I'm not sure why the Tom is coming in, because now this opens up Solafide to even pick Karma with the Varus. And then that's very bad news bears. Very, very good synergy, very good wave push for the Olaf as well. And that could be a little bit worrisome. Obviously, Lethality Varus and even Serpent's Fang, obviously, in this game. Super, super powerful on the Varus. And so we'll see if that is what's going to end up happening. This isn't patch 11.5, so we're not going to have the Soul Reaver passive on, or Shield Reaver? Shield Reaver, right? On the Serpent's Fang. That's not going to be present. Finally, Lilia is coming in, though, in this match. Obviously, a nice answer to the Olaf. And, okay, we're going to have Rel, which I find to be very strange.
Right. This is the opposite of what you were talking about just a moment ago, saying, hey, they can pick a powerful range support, they can pick a Karma, they can keep Sir Thomas Kench from being able to farm properly in Senna's stead, but they've opted for melee support into melee support matchup.
Yeah. It just seems really weird, and now they're dragging Varus along for the ride with the engage with the Olaf, but now Lilia, she has two modes. She can go aggressive with her E-engage with Lilting Lullaby, or she can just be a peeling menace for her teammates. And she still has options to go Moonstone if she wants to do that here in this game, or just go Leandri's. We'll have to see what the follow-up pairings are going to be. But Yone now being banned away, Victor being banned away by No Org.
Okay, so we must see Tuesday. What's something else?
Jace banned away yet again, actually.
Okay, all right.
So that one, a little surprising.
So keeping the Jace away from Viper, they're still remembering what he was able to pull off in the previous games with it, with the big pick to secure the win back there in game number 1. Now we are still probably expecting a mid lane AD champion from the side of No Org because they have that AP jungler. They don't just want to make it so their opponent can stack the Verdant Barrier and just get infinite value out of that one. So they'll ban away the Syndra themselves. Powerful, versatile mid laner, one they're not planning on picking. As now it's up to Solafide. Okay, they're going to go for the Zoe here and leave their top laner as the final pick of the draft.
And so this opens up Lucian as being someone that's able to sort of keep Zoe under control, makes it so that Lilia doesn't just be able to get resisted by magic resist stacking or just the verdant barrier like we talked about before. But no, Set is going to be locked in. And so this one is gonna be pretty interesting. I know this matchup can go in the LCK. I've not seen the matchup actually too often in the West, but Zoe, if you're piloting Zoe really well, Set can have a pretty difficult time in modern day.
And the last pick for the side of
Rise.
No Org is the Rise. All right. What do we want to see into this? If Solafide wants to keep this series going, what's the answer to the Rise?
Well, the Rise is going to be most likely in mid lane against the Zoe. Set's going to be blinded up into top lane.
Blinded top, okay.
And so, okay, and Aatrox being hovered. I feel like this is a really big blunder. So now Varus and Zoe are sort of off theme. They're being dragged along for the ride if the Aatrox gets locked in. Rel Olaf are trying to run forward. You could claim that obviously Varus and Zoe are there to, rain down a hail of arrows from the backside. But the reality is that the kite back and juggling that's present on Norg's team composition is obviously a much more synergistic answer to the majority component of Solafide's team composition. And the Tahm Kench being there, kind of obnoxious for Zoe with the bubble. Things are definitely interesting, but I would give No Org the draft edge yet again.
I was going to say, that's what it sounds like your statements are all leading up to here is No Org won the draft here in game number 3. On the blue side for the third time in a row. Solafide making the adaptation to ban away the Seraphine. It ends up giving over the Senna. She's allowed to have her choice of a partner there in the bottom lane with the Tahm Kench. And now you have Tahm Kench against two divers who just want to make sure they murder you before they're somehow kited away. And that's so difficult.
And we have a Rise going up into top lane for Viper.
I was
Rise, yeah. I mean, Rise is historically an answer to Aatrox up in top, and so seems like a little bit of flexing on here. Now, the question for me is what's going to be the dynamic between this Zoe and this Set, where I know how it can play out when it's, very, very, very high class, like mid laners going up against one another. Set can have a problem, but is Tuesday going to be able to live up to that level and actually exert enough pressure and force over Set?
Oh, this is it, man. Do or die. Solafide putting everything in on the Zoe and the Varus and the Rel and his team comp that, as you've expressed, is just not completely coherent towards the same goals, but it needs to be good enough to break through No Org in a way that Solafide has not yet been able to do. Remember that game number 1, they looked like they had it. It was so close. Yeah. And then it fell through their fingers. They were just that close to getting that win. But it ends up being a throw in game number 1, and then in game number 2, it's neck and neck for a while, but that big misplay in the mid lane that led to the Baron is what cracked the game wide open. And so for Solafide, the biggest thing I'm looking at coming into this third game is mental reset. We got to ignore the fact that the first game got lost at the very end. We got to ignore the fact that an unforced error caused the big play that changed the game in game 2. It's all just got to be a clean slate from here. Tabula rasa. Let's go.
Well, Solafide, they have tools again to dominate down in bot lane and mid lane. This should be very good for Winston on the Olaf. But the thing that makes me really nervous is that Winston, time and time again throughout the series, goes for high variance ganks that really is not congruent with what Olaf should be wanting to do with the position that he's having. And so I'm curious to see what's going to happen here already as we load into Summoner's Rift. There's a bit of things making me raise my eyebrows here.
What do you got, buddy?
First and foremost is the Predator on Lilia.
Okay.
So it's not going to be
different one.
The Dark Harvest.
Yeah, Predator, I feel like I almost always either see Phase Rush or Dark Harvest on Lilia. Predator is one of the ones that's just not that common based on my experience and the things that I've viewed.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure what exactly the point of the Predator is going to end up being here. We'll have to see how it does transpire. And then also the question for me is what itemization path is Onda going to actually opt into in this game? Because Well, Set doesn't have any AP ratios. Ryze, Senna, and Tahm Kench do. And movement speed is pretty damn valuable here against Solafide's comp.
Especially with Ryze and Set, with two champions with no inbuilt gap closers, dashes, blinks, whatever you want to call them, on their kits.
Yeah.
Movement speed just means that much more. So could very well be an option there. On the other side, also do want to point out, whenever Varus is in the game, I always want to look at Varus's keystone just so you can get an idea of what his build is going to be. Lethal tempo generally leads him to be more of a DPS-oriented build instead of lethality poke.
And that strikes me as so weird because now what it's going to mean is that Apollo in the laning phase is going to have a bit of a more difficult problem. Tuesday,
Ooh,
that was a really bizarre trade.
It happens sometimes. It happens. Okay, loses a little bit of HP. He's got a whole jug of potions, and he's already got one cookie in the inventory. He should be just fine at least. 5Fire playing aggressively, haven't hit level 2. Doesn't look like Tuesday's going to allow him any more opportunities for those cheeky trades here nice and early. Apollo and Zeyzal do have command over the bottom lane here nice and early, pretty much what you would expect. Jungle clears. You can see Ondas starting in the bottom half, Winston starting in the top. So once more, these junglers will be starting opposite sides and progressing towards other ends of the map compared to one another. So likely just going to be some low action early gaming here out of the junglers. No explicit PvP over the Scuttle Crabs, and everybody's just farming up, getting them stats.
Yeah, and the thing that strikes me as really surprising in this game is that Winston, again, this is very akin to the Kai'Sa and Alistar game, where there's not really a gank potential that should be possible down in bot lane, but on the top side, if Ryze is overextended and Aatrox has a good lane state, depending on what's happening, you can actually legitimately make a play against Ryze or zone him off a lot of EXP and CS, and that can be pretty impactful for top lane. But Winston, on an identical path that he's run 3 games in a row now, and we'll have to see what he's going to end up doing as he moves out of this. Ryze might have been able to go for a cheater recall here, but doesn't seem like he actually wants to. He wants to stay on the turret, but you're going to see Aatrox's HP at the top right. I know that we're on Zeyzal right now, but he's not really being hit. I mean, he's at about 60%. He has the Doron shield. He still has his red potion. And Viper is completely owned.
Yeah, Viper's got no mana left to continue trying to keep this harass going. 5Fire getting ganked here in the mid lane, flashes away, recognizes the bubbles heading towards him, but the Swirl Seed finds its mark on Tuesday here in the mid lane as well. Onda's interference here makes sure that no more bad stuff's going to happen to old 5Fire, but now you've got the TP from Dokla back into the top lane. Viper teleporting back here now as well, so both of these guys will be vulnerable. But it's Viper who has a nice CS lead early on here from just being the powerhouse that Ryze is against melee champions.
Yeah, and both of them go for movement speed with that Boots Tier 1 pickup. They both acknowledge how important movement speed is in this matchup for all the spacing.
Absolutely.
And meanwhile, yeah, I mean, in mid, 5Fire is just going to get a crash in onto Zoe, who has already gone for the reset. And I'm very interested to know what type of approach is 5Fire going to take to this game in terms of itemization. Will he actually just go for the Stridebreaker on set, or are we going to get a blast of the past and see something tanky come out of him?
Kim Tank set or something similar going in for playmaking, but it's Zeyzal who has to flash away as no Org wants to make a play in the bottom side. Apollo continuing to run away with a Summoner heal being used down here to make sure that he and Zeyzal stay safe, and Onda's presence means that Solafide doesn't have much of a chance to fight back as this wave collides into the turret.
Yeah, and No Org are just in a fantastic position. They're almost up 1,000 gold. Nothing's happened. Now, a lot of that is inside of the Senna Souls, and it's inside of Ryze up in top lane. Tuesday's having to come up here to catch the wave because Dokla's just getting dumpstered up in top lane right now. Viper's putting him into the bin, and I don't know what is going to happen because Winston needs to put out the fire. This is why I said early pathing up to top lane could have been beneficial for Solafide, because you have to alleviate the pressure that Ryze exerts over Aatrox, but Winston just seems on autopilot like he has in so many of the games, and he's just going to be on permafarm mode. And with knowing, by the way, now that Varus is lethal tempo, even less upside in the later stages of the game, you can actually see he doesn't have control over Senna and Tahm Kench down the bottom, the way that a lethality Varus would actually have. And this is going to mean that Apollo is just going to transition weaker than we anticipated him to for the mid game. And that's even more problematic for Solafide.
Onda continuing to just make sure that he's staying around this bottom side, guaranteeing that Value and Big are able to scale up because he knows there's not a lot of problems in the other lanes. There's already been a lane swap with Dokla coming into mid, trying to create a more opportune laning situation because the Aatrox is just having a horrible time against this Rise, but now they are going to switch back up. It's Dokla back up into the top lane. The poor man, you said he's getting put in the dumpster, man, but I'm saying he's getting thrown into a locker. His lunch money is getting taken. This is bullying up here in the top lane. He is having a bad time, and it's going to keep staying bad as Viper maintains control. Level 6 now here on the Rise, has the wave shoved into the turret here for the reset. As you can see, an assist me ping coming out. He goes for the Realm Warp into the mid lane off screen, but won't really find a lot onto Tuesday other than the flash. But that is Tuesday's real flash, so there is opportunity to come back here soon in the next 5 minutes, make a return play.
And Cloud Dragon, first strike of the game, and right now, I mean, no one has taken it yet. You can see that Winston is posturing around it. This is what I meant earlier by the variance things that he does. All of his camps on the left-hand side are up, and he's praying on the off chance that a full HP set hopefully doesn't decide to move over. Bot lane having priority. Lily is here as well. Things are about to get scary.
Flash out for Big, making sure he's alive, but now Zazel's going to be the one taking the damage. Two-man sleep coming in. Watch out. A first blood over to Lilia. You better fear the deer with a little bit more damage. Get over here. Winston's taken down. Value's got the kill there. It's a 2-for-1 here in the bottom lane. Flash over the wall from Apollo to escape the collapse from 5 Fire. And no org gets paid.
Yeah, and I mean, No Org is just really completely pile driving them here in game number 3, and this is what we were worried about. Winston was posturing around bottom for an eternity, for literally no reason. Can't spell jungle this game as he's probably just feeling antsy, thinking we need to get something, we need to do something, feeling like everything is desperate. They are going to get a counter back here, though. They get a kill onto Senna, but they lost the dragon, and this time around, I mean, No Org, they're just still in a very good spot overall.
Okay, let's take another look at the replay here. Big with the flash to evade the initial engage, and then the two-man sleep is just the doom, man.
And it was just really good. You can see Onda, I mean, his red buff is still waiting to come up. He doesn't have anything else to do. He's playing against the ranges of what Solafide could maybe try to attempt here. And then even if something was still going a little chaotic, Fire had first move. He had full HP on set. We mentioned this before the gank even started. And you have Tuesday come down here. Nice attempt to get something there. They do get the kill onto Senna, who doesn't end up using her flash, doesn't need to do it. She needed to reset anyway as we come back into live.
Oh! Meanwhile, man, Tuesday just barely getting away from that haymaker to survive there. He was right in the middle, so the true damage should have taken him out if he was just slightly closer. No Org continuing to maintain control over the mid lane here. Tuesday gets pulled back there by the face breaker, but no follow-up damage to kill him off. That was so risky jumping forward.
Yeah. Oh, Value has his ultimate up.
Okay,
is he going to go for... No.
Oh, Dokla, you better be careful, buddy. Not in the best spot here in this game. Still down 30 CS compared to his lane opponent. Everywhere else on the map, LS, it's even, right? You got 74 versus 77 mid, 61 versus 69 in the jungle. Down in bottom lane, 66 versus 77, so a little bit of a lead there for Apollo. But up in the top side, that 32 farm lead is just unmatched by anywhere else on the map. And Viper's Rise is having a heyday up here.
Well, the scary thing as well is that No Org are supposed to be the ones that are actually down in gold early on. And the fact that they're ahead with a better scaling team composition, it's just really problematic for the opponents. Infernal Dragon's going to be coming up second. We were guaranteed to have a spicy soul of some sort this game, whether it be the mountain or the ocean. If it is mountain and Norg manages to get to it, I think that's probably lights out for Solafide. All of their primary engage just going to be completely invalidated by the soul point. And with No Org getting that first Cloud Dragon, regardless of if Solafide starts stacking the follow-up dragons, they guaranteed that at the least they probably bought themselves 5.5 minutes worth of scaling time in the future just by having that one dragon to deny any sort of a soul. And everything's looking really good for them right now. They need to try to get follow-up dragons if they want to try to stay inside of this game. But it's really hard. Their comp doesn't have a whole lot of identity. There's not a lot of tools because of the misaligned identity of the champions.
And it feels even worse when Aatrox is in a spot like this. Dokla now forced to flash plus the World Ender to get away. We're talking about how you got these two big divers with the Aatrox and the Olaf. Yes, Rel's going to be helping him with CC, but they're the damage. But Aatrox is so far behind the curve of the game compared to his opponent. What are you even going to dive? They don't have their scuba gear, man. They don't even have nothing. They don't have their swimming trunks, so they're getting thrown into the pool like this.
Yeah, I mean, things are looking really rough. Now, one of the things that they are doing is they're summoning the Rift Herald to actually raise the turret. And so all the gold's going to go over. Hold on, we got a dive attempt here.
Okay, Winston's trying to make the move here for the first time, but it's two TPs showing up. No Org is still looking to fight. Fire with a nice ulti on to Zeyzal, who doesn't get over the wall until he uses the flash. Fire here on the front line with a big haymaker, playmaker, a little bit more damage onto the enemy. Olaf able to take him down. Fire kept alive. Massive outplays, massive kills, and no response whatsoever from Solafide. It is a 4 for nothing, and it's about to be 5. Tuesday gets over the wall with a flash, but that was a tragedy for Solafide, and no Org completely outplays them.
And they are tilted out of their mind like the earth right now. I have no idea what Solafide were hoping to achieve right there. They tried, that was the Hail Mary play, that was the desperation. And one of the things that we don't even get to talk about is that all of the jungle camps get pillaged on the minimap by Lilia while all of this is happening. Teleports come in, the angle from Nord just here, the superplex bicep, facebreaker, haymaker, and then Fire gets devoured by Tahm Kench. He stays inside of the belly, probably says, no, let me back out. I have Set's region going, and there's just no damage. Tuesday can't find his way into this team fight. Definitely not Chovy in this instance, but obviously the Abyssal Voyage comes out, gets the real flash out of Zoe, while Lilia was just stealing everything on the top side. 5,000 gold lead, and it's going to be an Infernal Dragon. We're 2 away from Soul Point. Noorg looking like this one is almost in the bag.
Holy smoke, look at that gold graph. It was casually working its way up, and then the difficulty just spiked straight vertical for terms of how Solafide is supposed to fight back against this. 5,000 gold down at 13 minutes feels like a bad solo queue game, LS. I don't even know where you start constructively breaking this down to say, all right, how do we get back into the game? I mean, right now, Solafide is going after the Drake. No Org doesn't have bodies around anywhere nearby to really be stopping it, so at least they're able to take the Drake on that one. But now they got to be careful about what No Org might be able to do. Flash in. They're trying to go for the multi-man sleep, but Onda's in a bad spot now. Likely going to be taken down. A little bit more damage coming out. Fire explodes. No Org trades 1 for 1. They lose their mid lane. They grab the enemy jungler. A little bit more damage going forward. Marching incredibly aggressively. It's a double kill over to the Rise. He will be shut down. Nice shot over the wall. Huge throws coming out from No Org, and Solafide getting it done here in a 4-for-2 fight. About to be 5, making an ace. A triple kill for Dokla. Somebody just handed this man a plane ticket right back into the game.
And Dokla now, I mean, with the triple kill, he has propelled himself back into the game. This was completely reckless by Onda, because one of those targets has CC immunity. Just doesn't make any sense what he was going for. Set doesn't get the haymaker, so he's missing a lot of EHP that he should have had in that fight in order to lock up Solafide, in order to buy more time for Rise to get in there to start getting the AoE off. And in this fight, at the very end in live, it looked like Value had the flash, but it was actually just a sliver away from coming back up. That's why he doesn't end up using it. He does get brought down. Tuesday going back over the wall, getting the kill onto Lilia. Now, Noorg, when we do come back into live, they are still, I believe, ahead 4,000 gold. But if that didn't just detilt Solafide, I don't know what possibly could. That was probably the best series of events that they ever could have hoped to accomplish. However, there's so many legendary and mythic items about to come in on the side of No Org that the next fight in 3 minutes, it's going to look very one-sided.
Very, very scary. Let's do another check-in on the top lane CS as Rise continues to bully Aatrox. 166 versus 88. He is 78 farm ahead of his opponent. Now, granted, they both have the same scoreline, 3-1 and 2. Let's see if Fire, you in any danger down here? I think you're all right, buddy. Bowling ball comes out, goes right through the uprights here. We'll call that one a goal, but that's not what they're playing for. Onda taken low into the stasis, able to stay alive. Fire looking for a little bit more here, and Onda's play just stays sloppy here the past couple of minutes, but it still works out all right with a 1-for-1. Solafide has showed up to try to continue seeing if there's anything to find here. Get Zeyzal out of trouble. Fire with the stride breaker, able to slow him down, force out the Ragnarok. Value at 1/4 HP thanks to a big paddle star coming out from Tuesday there. Five Fire continues to chase. Winston continues the retreat. Dokla's approaching here from the side, but No Org is staying as a unit. Nice sleep down into Five Fire. Paddle Star coming in. Five Fire very, 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 very low. Gobbled up here by the Tom Kench. Kept alive, kept safe. Dokla going in, trying to run these guys down. Big on the front line. Sacrificial Catfish. Come on in, everybody. The eating is good. Dinner is served. Dokla's going back in with a shutdown onto the rise, making Viper pay for that hellacious lane phase, and Solafide will take a kill lead in this game.
Yeah, and Solafide, they take a kill lead. They're still trailing 2,500 gold, but they're definitely back in this game when it should have been lights out in this one. But Anda, I don't know what he's doing with so many of these reckless, haphazard engages. He was so far ahead. We take a look at what's happening now. I don't know if he's the only one calling it. So, Superplex goes down, but so much damage thrown back out onto Anda that they trade this one. Apollo and Zazel able to go 1-for-1. Zazel makes it over to Winston. You have the Senna come in via the Abyssal Voyage. Viper trying to make his way over as well, but it's just too needlessly aggressive. When you're that far ahead, you just try to get more ahead by not doing anything. You just, to the moon, you know, you just hold.
Yeah,
but
let it ride.
For some reason, No Org trying to get really greedy, force things over and over and over. Dokla able to get air and some nice team fighting by Solafide. And this is reminiscent of game one, Flowers,
yes,
where they just started getting needlessly aggressive and trying to force things for no purpose.
So many large errors very recently here from No Org. Nice bubble from Tuesday. Big should be just fine, popping the QSS to make sure he's not in any trouble there. Love seeing the Tom Kench go for QSS against a composition like this, meaning he's always able to save people. The big issue continues to be the state of the side lane here for Solafide. They don't really have a good answer to Rise when he's split pushing, even Set just bulldozing down some turrets up there in the top lane. Still a 3,000 gold difference here between the teams. Solafide behind despite having a kill lead. Five Fire just keeps pushing. He is not worried now that Tuesday shows up. He manages to juke him away there. Tuesday's still going to get punched to death if he ain't much more careful than this. A little bit more will get it done. Haymaker comes out, and Zoe just gets mollywopped. Five Fire, he goes in, he takes the turret, he sticks around, he draws four, punches Zoe in the mouth, and walks away. If that isn't Chad gameplay, I don't know what is. Five Fire, 3-1-4 as his team takes the Drake.
Yeah, they get the Mountain Dragon, which is super valuable for them here in this game, and they bring themselves 2 dragons away from that soul point. And the other thing about this as well is Five Fire, that was a solo kill in EXP, and you can see he's 12.5. Tuesday is still 11 when he ends up respawning. This is a big EXP lead. EXP leads often don't get talked about enough. The bubble whiffs, and then the Stride Breaker comes out. Zoe trying to just buy time for Rel to get there to lock up the set, but nice response with the Haymaker, cancels the CC, and the damage still goes through.
Well done from Five Fire. Current EXP in the top part of the screen right there. Viper, the one leading by an entire level. And surprisingly enough, the man right behind him, the dude he was stuffing in the locker for all of high school, aka laning phase, he's still staying relevant. Dokla trying to do something here in the game. Big with a nice save onto his AD carry, able to keep value alive, spitting him right back out, keeping him safe. Winston has to run, popping the Ragnarok, trying to get as much distance as he can, but Anda is one fast deer. Now let's see if Zazel ends up getting fully picked off here. Looks like maybe, but the shield, the heal, it's all in time, and Zazel gets out. Now Anda's got to be careful. He's asleep. Dokla coming in for the damage. Anda stays alive, but finally going to be brought down. Traded away here in a 1-for-1. More Paddle Stars coming in, and it looks like we're only going to see that trade here. Yes, there's a sleep and a Five Fire. No, it will not be a kill. It maintains pressure here in the mid lane for No Org. They want to take down this tier 1 turret. It will be their 4th turret of the game. Five Fire's taken very low. Five Fire is out. A bit of a mistake overstaying here, or was it? Viper is unleashed. The rise, the farm, the power. This guy won there in the laning phase, getting some work done. Big gobbling him up, keeping him safe there from the trouble bubble. You brought this up in Champ Select, man. Tom Kench makes Zoe's life so difficult.
Yeah, and this is why it was a little bit confusing to see the way that some of the stuff went. I like this. Apollo, he holds that arrow, and he fires it when exactly at the moment Senna pops out. So he gets the 2-for-1 value. Up on the top side, Five Fire comes in off the teleport, gets onto Zazel, but then the Superplex comes out, doesn't attempt to cancel any of the CC, and then it looked like they were actually going to be too far overextended. Dokla goes immediately after Value, doesn't actually get the kill onto Onda, but Winston was able to do that, utilizing his flash. From here, the fight should have been ended if they just take the safe route around inside of River, but another Tuesday bubble ends up landing, gets the sleep, Fire walking a little bit too far forward, bone plating dissipates, and then the Paddle Star doing so much damage. But Varus was the one to get the kill. Rise got the Rune Prison, dogged him down immediately after that. And then, like you had just said, Bubble landed on Rise. That could have maybe been a turned around kill, but Tom Kench there to foil the plans. 2 minutes until Mountain. They need to just stop fighting. I know it sounds really alien concept here, but they literally need to just wait.
I don't think that's happening, man. We got 24 kills in 21 minutes. There's blood on the ground more than once every 60 seconds here in a competitive, coordinated game. These teams are bloodthirsty, and no org knows they've still got a couple of games they can play with. If they lose this one, so what? Lose the next one, so what? They got room. They got breathing room. It's Solafide that are completely against the wall, and they've got to walk away with a dub here. But the gold is back up to a 4,000 separation here between them. Viper has over 100 CS more than his opponent. Dokla continues trying to farm. He's got Stride Breaker plus lots of magic resistance here in his itemization with the Mercury Treasure and the Spirit Visage, but it's still not enough to stand up against this Rise with 3 full items plus his boots already completed. This guy is frightening in the side lane.
Yeah, super, super scary inside of this game right now. One of the things that Solafide does have going for them, though, is that, well, until just a second ago, actually, they had a couple of EXP leads across the board in some of the roles. Obviously, Apollo, 2 levels over Value. Big is, however, 2 levels over Zazel, but Winston did just have a level over Onda, so I'm curious if Winston's about to ding 13. Level leads, they do equate to something, and with 30 seconds left to go, I mean, every little point of base stat does end up counting. Looks like Horizon Focus is the next item of choice for the Zoe here inside of this game. Sterix, I'm not sure if Fire is actually going to have it available for this next team fight, but he's teleportless, staying up in top lane. It looks like now he's going to start to rotate down. Whoa!
Okay, well, it doesn't really matter if he's a little bit late to the fight when the enemy support face checks a brush and gets chain CC'd with an Everfrost 100-0. I hate that item, LS. That Everfrost, it's so strong. It's so strong.
It is. It's really good.
It's incredibly powerful.
Everfrost on Cho'Gath, it's honestly, it's amazing.
Everfrost on anything, and Skarner doesn't get to be anything except a frozen lobster TV dinner. It's awful. You just stand there and you're stunned for 9 years unless you have flash. I'm calling BS on that item, bro. Nerf that thing back to where it belongs. I know you're out there somewhere, August. Happy birthday. Please nerf it. All right, back into the game, though. We got the blue team doing some work, and it's no org. 3 Drakes now in their pocket. Solafide is so happy they managed to get that Infernal Drake way back when, because if this was a Mountain Soul right now, LS, I would say game over.
Yeah, I mean, this would definitely be problematic. I mean, they did just get quite a bit of value from this Mountain, and you look over on the side of Solafide, and yeah, you have a Kraken Slayer. Yes, you have the passive burn from the Leandries that gives you 15% magic pen, but outside of that, no one has any sort of pen. So even though it's only 12% amplification, it still means a lot, because champions that should otherwise be considered squishy are suddenly turning into off-tanks.
And now we got a dive coming out. Solafide wants to make the play here in the mid lane. They're going after Big. The man is forced to use the thick skin, still barely staying alive. Drowsy once more, but Fire has arrived from behind enemy lines. Big ulti coming down, forcing him away yet again. Face Breaker goes through, but he doesn't have the stun. Haymaker onto 4 different targets with the sleep coming through. Follow-up is there with the Blooming Blows, picking up the first kill. Tuesday's gonna drop. Zazel continues running away, but a double kill back for Value is big value indeed. 2 dead on the enemy team, nobody dead on their own, and that is no org going after the Baron.
Yeah, they're going to turn immediately onto the Baron. There's no hope to steal away this Baron. There's no Blast Cone behind it. Olaf doesn't have Flash. This isn't Fnatic. There's probably no way that they would ever be able to even attempt to go for that one, but didn't matter. Olaf, he was so low on HP anyway, he just had to recall. We take a look at what's happening. Solafide randomly pushing up into the mid lane. Even if you get the 1 kill, it doesn't convert into anything. So what are you all doing? You're not going to lose the game over, or win the game over 300 gold. Really big Haymaker went out Value not quite able to bring Winston into the burn range for the Leandres that Anda had ticking away. Double kill went over to Senna. I'm also curious actually what her soul count is at, but this game is, it really is almost lights out right now for Solafide. They're down 7,000 gold, down 2 mountain dragons. Soul point is being threatened, and this Baron leads almost directly into it.
Damage dealt last team fight. Senna alone is within 1,000 of the combined total value of all 5 enemy players. She is within 1,000 of all 5 of them put together. That is that is not fair. Value is so strong.
Senna only has 100 souls here at 27 minutes. This ain't reckless, I'll tell you that much. But we got another fight, man.
Okay, it ain't stopping. Dopla's going in. They're trying to put some damage onto a valuable target, but 5-Fire is so damn difficult to kill. He goes for the massive play with a haymaker. The boy is absolutely setting it up here for his squad. The stopwatch keeps him alive. It's a triple kill over to Anda. Marching on down mid lane, boys. It's time for the victory parade. It is Winston against the world. Anda's going right back out there trying to stop him. Goes forward with the Eep. He'll find him and stop him. Winston can't get back to the base in time. And that should be it. Does Anda die? Does it even matter? I don't think so. Senna ulti coming through. See you later, pal. But it's over. It's done. It's GG in a 3-0 performance. Coming up from the lower bracket. Taking down Zeus 3-0 yesterday. Taking down Solafide in the 3-0 today. No Org are your unified Grand Prix champions.
And No Org with a really big run through the lower bracket as well, knocking out some of the academy teams as well on their way here. They knocked out TSM, they knocked out CLG. They made a really big tear through everything, and then today they come into the finals, 3 straight draft edges, and then just an absolute annihilation in the last game. And Solafide clearly a little bit off kilter in the last game with how reckless and haphazard they were being with a lot of the choices that they were making, and they just got completely clapped for it. So in the last game as well, Viper showing up really big on the Rise pivot top lane that I think Solafide weren't anticipating. That's why they locked in the Aatrox, and then he was completely chovying all game long. I think he had 340 farm there at the end of 28 minutes. Pretty chovy-esque performance.
Yeah, honestly, just the Rise versus Aatrox difference in the top lane, combined with how well everybody was working together. Big, again, always on top of the saves. Value providing a ton of damage in the fights. But my MVP is still going to be 5-Fire. The way he was able to tank up in so many situations, getting the solo kill on the Zoe in the middle of a 5v1 collapse and getting away in the top lane. And then it was his performance getting caught in the final fight with a 4-man haymaker, 4-man face breaker, stasis to keep everybody there. It won the game. And honestly, No Org deserved the 3-0 here. Awesome stuff out of these guys.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't want a basically better result than that. It is the 3-0, and Solafide, I mean, what can you really say? They were the team with, I think, pretty much the most stacked, right? From LCS veterancy, I think overall across the board. And here in the finals, they just end up getting showed up.
Well, big congratulations over to No Org. Well fought, well earned, knocked down to the lower bracket early on by Zeus Gaming, coming back to get their revenge in the lower bracket final, and then taking it all the way lossless through the lower bracket final and the grand final combined. Awesome stuff out of them, but that is it here for myself and for LS. We've been casting the whole thing here for these past couple of days. Tons of other talented casters a part of the show from its very beginning, from its inception. So lots of love from us here to all y'all out there. Thank you so much for tuning in. And now we're going to toss things back to the desk.
I do have a desk. I'll give you that one. I'm here joined with 5-Fire. First of all, congratulations. I think this is your 3rd amateur chip. Your gold. You guys have been winning quite a bit, right?
Of amateur sort of deal, then it's my 3rd year in a row, so we're keeping it consistent.
First question for me is, like, being able to win this championship, what would you attribute this success to? At least, like, going through this tournament, I know you guys got bumped down to the lower bracket, but you ended up fighting back. What would you attribute, like, that growth and being able to win it this time around?
I have to put so much to our team's discipline. We lose one game, one series, we're already super mad. we're thinking about, okay, what did we do wrong? What can we do better? How can we come back stronger? And, we exemplified that yesterday when we 3-0'd our demons who knocked us down to the lower bracket.
Yeah.
The whole team just staying focused and being ready to play every single day is really important.
I mean, even speaking to that mentality, this felt like a pretty tough, like a closer 3-0. Like, if you were to watch the games, it wouldn't have felt like a 3-0 stomp. What was your reaction to in these games, especially the last one, when Solafide were coming back and taking team fight wins?
It's a little scary. Our team does have a tendency to throw, and we all get a bit nervous. But like I said, because we've been through this now several times, we have like close to 100 games in the past 2 months or something ridiculous throughout these tournaments. So being able to keep that mental fortitude really high, and also, which also I have to shout out to our coaches a little bit. They're keeping us hyped up in between all the games and making sure we're focused and ready for everything. So while it is scary in the moment, we're ready for it. We've dealt with it before, and we knew in the end that we could still be strong, we could still fight, we could still win.
Sweet. I want to ask you a question more about yourself, because you mentioned that you've been here for a bit, and at some point you're going to get picked up. I wanted to know, because this team is stacked with talent. What is your role? How would you view your role on this team and your playstyle? Because I'm seeing the Veigar yesterday, the Yone today. Your champion pool is quite large, even the set with the last game. What would you view your position on this team?
Well, I think my top laner would like me to call me his dog sometimes, but
No!
but I'm not super happy having that always be the case. Sometimes I say, no, I get the Yone, you get the Karma. So honestly, we're a really flexible team. We have lots of shot callers. We have lots of ability to play different styles. I think I'm a rock in the mid lane. Well, maybe that's a bad word because sometimes I int, but I'm there. I'm definitely a playmaker as well. So in the mid game, looking for those big plays is definitely a big thing I do.
And I don't want to take too much of your time. Last question for me here is, what are your expectations going into Proving Ground? Having won this championship and quite a few tournaments already in amateur this season. And of course, now having the higher seed of being able to win this tier 1 event. What are your expectations? What are your goals?
I mean, in the end, I'm not 100% sure if we can do it right now, but we have a long break ahead of us where we're going to be able to practice and learn. And I think at the end of that, our goal should be to win the whole thing. We're going to give these academy teams, we're going to give these LCS orgs a run for their money and show them why they should be scared of these amateur positions.
Thanks. I love to hear it. Once again, thank you for the interview and congratulations on today's game.
Thank you very much.
Sweet. And back to the desk we go. Guys.
Thank you. Good night.
Wild one. Magic, it didn't go 3-1, but you still nailed it. You had the faith in Noorg to come up with the victory, and they did it.
Yeah, there were multiple points during this game where I thought they were going to give me the loss that I was, looking for from them. They tried pretty hard, but it just, they were just too far ahead. They couldn't even manage to throw that one. Not even Noorg, who were pretty good at it.
So I want to think more about the comp as a whole. Like, looking at this game, we're going to talk about the game a little bit, and then we're going to take a big step back and look at the tournament as a whole. But this was a change up. The Seraphine did get banned Zyrene, and we saw it was Noorg nabbing the Senna and going straight into this composition with a flex in mind with Rise.
Yeah, it was actually just like a really incredible composition from them, playing the fasting Senna with Big being a playmaker who can go into the front line and save people, and then Firefire playing the set with the Rise top lane from Viper. So it's a very Noorg specific composition. It's very hard to prepare for something like this by playing against any other team or scrimming any other team. This is where you really saw the kind of strengths, I think, of Noorg come out, right? We got to see Anda do a lot more kind of power farming in jungle, just like control, and then Viper just carrying from the top lane. Absolutely disgusting performance from him. His CS per minute was just crazy.
Yeah,
he was finding CS that didn't exist. It's one of those things where, like, how is he creating minions? Like,
and Magic, I mean, you were expecting this flex. You were expecting the Rise to go in the top lane and for Firefire to pick up the set. It did happen, and Doklo was not having a good time. Kind of set that up for me as we go into this replay that is essentially the culmination of a dive.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point was the point with the flex is, Firefire plays set mid. It is one of the champions that he's kind of known for. And so, the Rise, I think they picked it knowing they could flex as a reaction to the last pick on the red side.
Yeah.
So, they got a really big lead. on the rise. He's able to TP down to this fight. This is a 5v4 dive attempt by Solafide that just Norg, I mean, with that tankiness there, Five Fire over and over again took most of his health bar and damage, gets saved by the Tahm Kench. There were, moments where it wasn't quite enough and he did die, but most of the time he just had that like 10% of his health left. He gets saved by the Tahm Kench, he comes out, and Norg managed to turn the fight there. And meanwhile, during this, they've got the top lane pushed all the way through. Anda is all on his own, clearing topside camps. They just so much control of the game with how fed Five Fire was and how fed Viper was.
Yeah, and they just get maximum control of that too. Like the top, when you come back as a jungler from that and you respawn, you're like, well, all my top camps are gone. So you're very easy to track at that point. And it was just an absolute nightmare for them. The fact that you lose a 5v4, I think you got to look at the setup. Like we talked about this before yesterday with like Zoe compositions. You got to give it time to poke. You got to make sure that they back off of turret or that you aren't completely forcing like they did. And I just think their vision control wasn't quite there, and it was something that was forced because they saw Lilia's top side, right? Jungler can't possibly make it to this fight, and that was the doomsday scenario right there.
And I mean, let's just walk into the next replay. It happens 2 minutes after, and it's something that we've seen from Norg time and again, where they have this huge lead, and we're like, I mean, they're just going to win this game now. It's so hard to fall behind off this. The engage comes through from the set and doesn't work out as planned, Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the moment where, Five Fire's tankiness wasn't quite enough. He didn't get his W off, pretty sure there. And so he did pop right off the bat with that one. So it didn't always work out, but, the rest of his team's pretty fed. They think they can extend this and finish it. The moment you start that you don't kill off the Aatrox at the start of that fight, even with Dokla being so far behind, he's still Aatrox. He can still just roll his face around the keyboard, lifesteal his way through an entire skirmishy fight. And this was where it looked like, no way, not even Norg can throw a leak this big, can they? But they, it looked like it might happen. But at the end of that, triple kill for the Aatrox, he's still down 80 CS at that point. I don't know.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like maybe the gold would have been better on somebody else, but at the same time he needed it to even catch up, right? Yeah. That's how far ahead Rise was. Is Viper had played so well, he gave himself that buffer room where his team could feed 3 kills into the guy and they'd still be completely fine, right? So like you said, I still kind of chalk that up to luck though, because that last Aatrox knockup seems to be when Five Fire went to press his W, and that would have been so much damage and durability. That fight would have been absolutely just devastated by it. So I just put that in like as a small error from him if he just pressed it a little earlier. Like when people press their buttons, I'm like, oh, okay, how they press it here? It's just like he didn't even get to press it. Like, he just messed up. So,
and I mean, at the end of the day, they ended up finding the opportunity anyways. Let's just go straight into the game ender. It felt like. Because the teleport flank comes through. I'm going to send this one straight back to you, Zyrene, from Five Fire as a flank. This is the pretense. This is the setup.
Yep, they've gone a little bit too far forward. There's a TP in the front, TP in the back. Even though Big is almost dead, still grabs the rel, slams it down. Aatrox moves a little bit forward, and they aren't exactly focusing him, and then he gets a fantastic W, and you can see the sleep afterwards, and really bringing it all together for the chase, for the back end of the fight. They get Tuesday, they get that primary damage dealer, and then they get the rel, and then they're able to go towards the Baron. So they were able to fight when there was something to fight for, and that's a really early Baron to be taking at that point in the game.
And so, Tim, this is just a trend that I am noticing, where this team, they do end up getting scrappy. They've mentioned it multiple times within their interviews that this is something they want to clean up. They now have the opportunity to do so during this break, is to nail down that mid game for themselves. But it seems like they have a real good structure to work off of. It's just so hard to deal with no org in the early game and in the draft. What do you think? What is the greatest strength of this team now as we take a step back and look at the future for this team going into Proving Grounds?
Yeah, I think it's just the skill of their top side. We've said it over and over and over again in this tournament. Viper is going to, he looks like by far the best top laner in amateur, and he gets leads. He can play any kind of matchup he wants. He's going to get a lead every time. Anda is so smart, plays so many, even the game like this where he didn't have his best game overall. He made some bad plays and some mistakes, but he still found really useful ways to contribute later on. And then Fire, who we talked about the mid lane matchup coming into this one, and Tuesday having really good strengths of his own, but we saw, I think, very characteristic styles from both Fire and Tuesday. Tuesday played his safe control mages and kind of did his job, but Fire was the one out there throwing himself at things, playing a lot of different stuff, making big plays for his team, and he shone brighter today. And he was able to do a lot of important things that led the way for his team. And so I think it's those three players and just the individual flexibility and skill and that they have and they can bring in. That's what makes this team the best in amateur right now. And, Value and Big or No, they do pretty well in the bot lane. Usually not the focal point, but they definitely contribute their part as well.
Yeah, they definitely want to echo that. Viper is such an insane player, and especially alongside somebody like Anda who can play to him. The fact that, he's getting these massive CS leads, Viper's the type of top laner that as a coach, you want on your team because he's had to blind pick his top laner 5 out of the last 6 games, and they went 3-0 in both of them. He's such a scary person to draft against. Everybody's picking red side going, we can't have our top laner, who is worse than this guy, play into him where he gets counterpicked. And even when you counterpick him, he's still winning the damn matchup. Like, it's an insane advantage to be creating without draft resources. That's the thing that really stands out to me is they'll target ban him, they'll throw some bans his way, he still gets a champion that throws people off, and even when they counterpick it, it's not enough of a counter for him to really give a damn about it. That's the insane thing. He's such a valuable player.
And I think the pairing with Anda is really important too, because Anda is so smart and knows where to path to. When he's usually pathing bot to top at the start of the game, he knows how to cover, he knows how to join for dives. And I think, with a different jungler, Viper might look a little more vulnerable. I think he'd still be pretty good. But having the right jungler who can cover him at the right times, knows how to support his pushes, it reminds me a lot of Team Liquid in the LCS, who have, a top laner in Alphari who can win any matchup. He's crushing pretty much everybody 1-to-1, and they've got a very kind of smart, safe controller into jungler and Santorin. And that pairing, I think, is very similar to what Viper and Anda pull off here.
All right. I mean, this wraps it up for what would be an insane event for this team. Let's throw up the bracket one more time. The tournament was a long one. It felt like, just take a look at that bracket. The amount of teams that went in and competed to look for that championship. And as you can see by the end of it, the grand finals, it's Solafide that comes out, and they were looking like they were looking like the team to beat coming in from the winners bracket, but it was No Org that came through the losers bracket, ended up beating down Zeus, who was that inner demon, it felt like, because they ended up losing to them in the upper bracket, and they take the grand finals 3-0. A huge congratulations to No Org for this one, a championship to them. And final thoughts from this one, Tim. What do you have based off of just the tournament as a whole for this organization?
Yeah, I want to call out. I mean, I think celebrating No Org is a great call, but I also just want to, looking back at that bracket we had and all the teams, Barrage was upset in the first round.
Yeah.
Evil Genius's Prodigies fell out. Maryville didn't make as deep a run as we expected. Winthrop were a really good surprise. There are so many teams earlier on in this event that are just going to be biding their time for the next chance and that are going to be really exciting in the next event. And we're hoping to punch their own tickets to the Proving Grounds and have another shot at these guys. So I can't wait to see, so much of the talent that played all the way through this tournament and celebrate them going forward as well. That's
a tip of the hat to the next Tier 1 event where these teams get another opportunity. That being said, that's a big congratulations to No Org for punching in that first prize, getting the championship. The 4 teams that ended up moving on to Proving Ground from this Tier 1 event. I want to thank everybody, the production, the commentators, the ones who worked so hard throughout the entire event to make this the way it is. And you guys, man, I love getting to work with you people.
You too, man.
There we go. And I mean, that's a wrap for us. Thank you, everybody, everyone in the chat. And we'll see you at the next event.